All right, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Well, welcome to the ShadowWork 101 class. We actually had quite a few people sign up, but as I mentioned, everyone gets a recording and copy of the assignments, whether they attend right now or not. So that's really cool. So thank you for the ones that are here, because that's going to increase the engagement, and you'll probably have some questions that I probably haven't thought of. So we can open the discussion and talk about that as we go. The class is broken down into specific topics, as I mentioned also in the email and when you signed up for the class. And it coincides with my ShadowWork 101 journal, which looks like this. And again, if you guys want to purchase it, there's a discount at the end of the class for it, and in the email as well. So if you don't have it though, and if it's on the way, don't worry about it. The assignment sheet will cover what you need, and you can you're not going to be able to do all of this today. Like there's no chance, because like you could be uncovering things from your life that are years past or even generational stuff. So yeah, you're not going to be completing this in this 1 hour class. So keep that in mind, and maybe just if you have a ShadowWork book on the way, they are arriving tomorrow. They are literally, it will be on my doorstep tomorrow, a big batch of them. So I'll be sending them out, and the next batch arrives 3 days later, which is insanely frustrating to me, but that's okay. We don't need to talk about it. But yeah, they're on the way. So yeah, you can continue your ShadowWork journal from there. We are recording on Zoom right now. So, yep, just keep that in mind. I do have you guys all muted on your end. So if you have any questions when it comes to the end of the topic, that's when I'm going to be asking the questions about that topic. I'm going to try and keep it on track. If you guys know me from TikTok, I have ADHD and I get a little bit, but I have written down the whole lesson plan. We're going to stay on track for the recording, especially because it decreases the amount of editing that I have to do. So keep your questions for each topic for that, but there is an open-ended question period at the end of the class. So if you want to ask your questions about shadow work or anything, like I'll leave it pretty much open. I'll leave it probably like a half an hour question period or longer, whatever. I'll probably do it on TikTok and on the Zoom. So yeah, feel free to write down your questions. I'm warning you in advance, okay? So you don't at the end like, dang, I wish I wrote that down. Write down your questions as we go, okay? So I'm gonna ask right now, just in the chat box, does anybody on the Zoom have any questions before we begin? And I'm just gonna note, I do have the TikTok running in the background, but sorry fam, oops. I looked right as it was like, plug it in. Whew, that was weird timing, but there's no coincidences. So yes, if you are signed up for the class, cool, thank you. If you guys want to get the recording, you're more than welcome to do that. If you're just peeking in, that's cool. I'll accept it for now, but it's only because it's the first one. So thank you, extra thank you to the people who are supporting me and yourselves. I'm a Canadian TikTok and content creator, so I don't get paid for anything I do on TikTok. So these classes are kind of to subsidize what I do on there. So if you guys are sneaking in and you love it, the download is available for the TikTok people. Okay, so you just click it. You can buy it for $5 Canadian. It's like $2 American. Okay. And really helps me out. So anyways, sorry I won't be answering TikTok questions. It's just for the people who paid for the class. But next time, if you want in, it's every month. All right, cool. No questions in the Zoom? Thanks, guys. All right, we're going to go get started. This is a new lesson plan for me. I'm not going to lie. I don't have it completely memorized, but I do want to make sure that I am giving you all the information that I planned in my lesson plan. It's about like 7 pages. So I will be reading some of it. And, but just keeping in mind, that's what I'm reading, and I have no shame in that, neither should you, but that's what I will be reading. This class is the basics of shadow work. So depending on who you ask, there's going to be a different definition. I kind of took, I guess, the trend of shadow work per se, and the fact that a lot of people want to heal and learn to help people and introduce them to cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm not going to lie, I was introduced to it by my therapist a few years ago, and after struggling for many, many years, this is literally the one thing, or maybe there's been a couple of things, but the main thing that has really helped me just acknowledge and release limiting thoughts and behavior patterns I have in my life that are potentially holding me back from manifesting things. We don't have an unlimited capacity in our life. Like if you feel like your cup is full and you're just like drained, like there's probably some releasing that needs to happen there, especially if you want to bring in new goals and you're feeling that inspired, but you're wondering why it's not happening. There's maybe some limiting thoughts that you have to work on. So that is kind of the basics of shadow work on my page. I don't share a lot of random prompts and stuff like other people do on social media for a big reason. you may uncover some traumas or behaviors or thought patterns that you might not be equipped to deal with. I am not a licensed therapist or a counselor. I am just sharing my experience, and that is one thing I need to note that's really important. I'm sharing with you what's worked for me. So if this, and part of the first couple of topics we talk about is building a support plan. But I want to note that if you are, if you uncover things that are really deep, that you need to insinuate those plans and make sure that you're getting extra help when required. So we're going to talk about that in this course. It's one of the first topics because it's super important. So again, also note, very important, I'm not a licensed therapist, so I can just direct you in the course, but I'll just share with you my experience. I wrote a little background about me. I just wrote it. I have not, again, I don't have it memorized. I do want to read it for you, just so you have an idea of where I came from with this. I don't think I've kind of shared this full story in whole, like, I don't think like ever, to be honest. I don't know if I have, because I'm just so spacey, but we're going to read it out. So, anyways, this you may be wondering how I got to this point, and I'd love to share a bit about my story. Great start. Shit about. Wow, great start, me. Share a bit about my story. You probably know this already, but my name is Kendra. I'm 33 years old. I'm currently a single full-time business owner, and I live with my dog and my cat. Unfortunately, my fish passed away. RIP fish. Basics aside, I started a school a year younger than everybody and spent the next 12 years being heavily bullied. I know a lot of people can relate to that story. From my height to where I bought my clothes, they always seemed to find a way to make me feel smaller than I already was. And unfortunately, the chaos did not end upon arriving home. What was a safe place and solace for many kids was not the case for me. My parents worked most of the time, and when they were home, emotional support was not first on the list, or really on the list at all. There were no hugs for this crying little girl, and acting out from the stress only made it worse. Physical abuse was also not uncommon in the household. Never being told I love you or I am proud of you, and dealing with the chaos pretty much full time, I still managed to graduate high school and move on to the next phase of my life relatively harm free, or so I thought. As soon as I graduated, I moved out, and the next years I spent overcorrecting for the years I spent in an extremely controlling environment. I went out partying, I got my motorcycle license, and basically took it out on the world. Fast forward to about 2 years ago when I found myself yet again at Heartbreak Hotel, hashtag my parents' basement, after a breakup in the middle of a global pandemic. I was suffering, and in turn, my businesses were suffering. I needed a change and somehow found the practice of gratitude. Through my misery, I made a goal to write down everything I was grateful for every day, no matter how hard it was. Some days I only managed 4 things, but as the time passed, the list became easier to write and I could feel my mindset improving. I was feeling a bit better, so I made the choice to take on the 75-day hard program by Andy Frisella and start therapy. I started and completed the challenge and inspired a landslide of change. I tried to run a few group challenges with Andy's program, but I realized the success rate was very low. And that's how I came up with a 14-day mindset reset. I took my favorite parts of his program and mixed it with my own spiritual practices and gratitude. I also broke it down into 3 levels to allow even further participation. I created personalized trackers and a private Facebook group for extra support. My body, mind, and soul were aligning, and I went out on a limb against everyone's advice, like literally everyone, and started my TikTok channel as Kendra Fierce. She was that girl. She was brave, courageous, and stood up for what she believed in. She is still me today. As my channel grew and the participation in the mindset group grew, so did my confidence. I went out on another limb after hearing about Amazon's self-publishing service and wrote my ShadowWork guided journal, and which is a compilation of what I learned through my challenges and therapy. To this day, it still blows my mind that a book I wrote is in the house of hundreds of people, and that you chose me today to help you get started on this amazing but intense journey of healing. So, that's a little bit about, well, very basic background on me and kind of how this all came about. I would say, about in the last 2 years. So, I did this shadow work journal kind of as a step by step to make it easier for people. The shadow work term is thrown out there a lot, and I was mentioning those prompts earlier, and a lot of times for likes and views and comments, people will just throw out shadow work prompts. And it is so dangerous. You will literally read the comments and people will be like, wow, I didn't need to cry today, or wow. And like they're they're uncovering all these things, which can be great if they have the proper tools to work through them and sort through them. And that's why I'm getting through my ShadowWork series on my channel. So hopefully people will say, okay, I have this step-by-step process to work through these, or get help if I can't work through them myself. So that's the goal of my book. That's the goal of this class. And so the contents of the class, as we go through it, are: what is shadow work, setting up your support system, self-care, higher self connection, shadow self connection, personal reaction scale, why, gratitude and forgiveness, triggers, creating an action plan, and self-care rewards. So it is quite a few topics, because I don't want this class to be drawn out a super long time, because I want people to be able to watch it later, and you as well. We're going to go through them. I'm going to explain them, and then let me know if you have any questions. I have provided an assignment sheet to anybody that signs up for the class that literally mimics almost identically this shadow work book. So if you can't afford the book, this $5 Canadian for the class, you get pretty much what's in the beginning of the book. Like, it's not the whole thing, but it gets you pretty much set up in the step-by-step process. So, and then plus you'll get this super cool class, and plus you're helping me. So thanks. Answer your questions at the end of the topic pertaining to the topic, and then make sure you save all your questions about random stuff for the end. Before we begin, also, I just want to note that, like, I'm super proud of you. I really am. It takes a lot of courage to say, you know what, I'm going to just start deciding that the world is not against me, because it's not. I tell you guys on my TikTok channel a lot, there's nothing negative or positive on this planet. Your perception makes it so. And if you don't believe me, you might not like murder, but serial killers do. And, you know, there's a lot of other analogies for that, but that's my favorite one. And it's true. You know, some things may seem super hard. And yes, some things, you know, they can feel very, very negative. And I'm not saying that if traumas are happening to you, you need to justify that and find a positive spin. Not at all. This is just about acknowledging behaviors and protection mode, I call it, that we've developed in lieu of those things. So, and that can be really challenging to say, you know what, hey, I shut down when this happens because this happened to me when I was a kid or something, right? Like, it's really hard to sit there and look in the mirror and say, you know what, maybe this is a behavior that I'm doing. You know, I'm having trouble communicating. Maybe it's something that I'm doing. It takes a lot of courage to do that. So I just want to say, like, I'm really, really proud of you for doing this. And you should be really proud of you too, because it can be tough. And with that being said, as mentioned, tough things might come up. Okay, so be prepared. I'm never going to sit here and say this is going to be easy. And why I have a big preface to this class is because we're talking about mental health, physical health, spiritual health, all of that. It's very, very important. I do have a background in emergency medical responding, and personal fitness training, not just your basic courses either. So I have some biology understanding, which we'll talk about later. All right, so before we get into it, does anyone have questions about the intro? No? Good to go? Seems pretty self-explanatory. Loving it. Loving you guys. I feel like I should maybe give you time to type, but it doesn't say if you're typing or not, so I don't know. Hang on one sec. I'm just gonna double check. No, we're good to go. Sounds like we're good to go. I can see Jenna Lynn and Heather at the top, and they're kind of like my indicators of, like, yeah, it seems like we're good to go. So thanks, guys, because you're just at the top there, and I appreciate that, because it's nice for me to have people to look back at in the audience, I guess, right? Don't worry about if you don't, anybody else, you don't have to turn your videos on. Oh, someone else did. I knew somebody was gonna feel like that. I knew it. You don't have to. I really just, I appreciate it. So yeah, I just felt someone being like, oh shoot, should I have to turn that on? No. Okay, if there's no questions, we're just going to go into it. So we're going to start with the basics. What is shadow work? Again, this definition is definitely going to differ depending on who you talk to. But in my definition and on my page, using the concepts of cognitive behavioral therapy, it is the process of acknowledging and healing limiting thoughts and behavior patterns that could be stopping you from aligning with your higher self and getting your manifestations and living just like calm boss life that you want to, that we all really want to. As mentioned in my bio, like, guys, my life just felt like complete chaos before I learned how to do this. And this is not only chemically proven to help your brain, but like you literally just, you don't even realize it's happening. You'll just wake up one day and be like, wow, I didn't wake up crying today. Like, whoa. And it's just a fun thing. And if you think it's going to take like an insane amount of time, it's not. You'll actually be surprised how quickly it works if you're willing to just be consistent with it. And if you haven't seen the affirmation on my TikTok page, I actually created that for myself to go with my shadow work and how I want to enter 22, with consistency and calm. So check that out if you guys want to save that. As mentioned, these thoughts and behavior patterns could be brought up from time. And also, we're learning, a lot of people, you've probably heard of generational trauma. So things passed down from your parents and from their parents and parents' parents is just, and I just want to say, like, just because something happened in the past, like our behavior was done, like, doesn't mean that it's right and doesn't mean that we should carry it forward. And I think that you guys basically know that. But I think it also does need to be said sometimes, like, hey, just because my parents did this doesn't mean that's the way I have to do it. And that doesn't, yeah. So it's really important to note that. And, but that is kind of the basics of it. It's just, I like to keep it as a pretty basic definition to keep it simple for you guys. So how you take on shadow work, though, it's kind of like manifestation. There is a lot of ways to do it. But in this course, we're going to do it through self-reflection, meditation, and purposeful journaling. Okay. And putting into action plans, I guess that's a huge part of it. Like actually doing the actions. That's obviously a huge part. But so as we go into the next topic, does anyone have any questions about what shadow work is? I won't be able to ask questions until I ask the question part. So if anyone on Zoom, when you're asking questions, I'll look for them in the box when I have the little boom. So yeah. Oh, Heather, that is, I got to keep the questions pertaining to the topic. So write that one down and I'll answer that one at the end. Okay. So anybody just entering the Zoom, we're keeping the questions to the topic that we're talking about. And then if you have random questions at the end, I'll answer those. Okay. So just save that one. All right. So if anyone doesn't have any questions about what shadow work is, we're going to just move on if that's cool. So if you printed out the assignment sheet, this is kind of where we're going to get to work on that. And if you have my shadow work book, and if you're on the TikTok, there's quite a few people on there. Yeah, honestly, if you want to try to join the Zoom, you should be able to go to the services, book it, pay for it, and people are joining it. So I'm assuming that that's working. The service is still set up, so you should be able to sign up and it should send you a link. But people are definitely still joining right now. So give it a try. If it doesn't, you're going to get a recorded copy and assignment sheet. Anybody who signs up now during whatever. All right. So thank you for that question. That was a good question. All right. So this is what the assignment sheet work looks like, by the way. You guys, I'll resend everything at the end of it if you signed up late, because I sent it about an hour and a half ago. But it's check your spam email, guys, too. Check your spam folder. But it looks like this. So it's kind of a little bit basically like the shadow work book. Okay. All right. So let's talk about our support system. I have this first for a reason. Creating a sustainable support plan before and as your journey through shadow work, it's imperative. You may uncover traumas and behavior patterns that you're not fully equipped to deal with alone. Without the proper support, this could leave you feeling discouraged and in a worse position than when you started. And we don't want that. That's the opposite of why I'm doing this. So let's work on creating that plan. It may take some time to work out all of the pieces, but as you progress, heal and grow, you will find you're not alone, and there are many people out there willing to support you. There are many different kinds of support available, and it's important to note that you will have to find a few people to cover these bases. As much as we would love to be able to rely on only a select few or even one person, you may need to keep in mind, just like you're unequipped to deal with everything, one person can't provide all of the support you require either. For example, if you have someone in your life that always gives you the worst case scenario, so like my mom just does that because she has a lot of anxiety that she doesn't want to acknowledge or treat. So that might not be the best person to turn to for emotional support. right? So, however, if you're, building a business plan or working out possible problems in your services, this person is a great asset. So, like, if I'm creating business plans and I want to know everything that's going to go wrong, I just ask my mom because she's just going to tell me that, right? But if I want to have support on something, I'm not going to be like, "Hey, mom," because she's going to be like, "What if?" Or if I have a new idea, do you think I'm going to go to turn to her? She's pretty supportive, but at the same time, you need to figure out what other people's boundaries are. And this is really important. A lot of people are like, just go to the same people. And we need to get in the habit. And I'm kind of bad at this too. I'm learning to be better. But asking, can I vent to you? Do you have space for this? A lot of us go to our friends or loved ones and we just blah, 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 because we're not feeling good. People do that on the internet. People do that on TikTok, right? They're not feeling good. So they just take it out on complete strangers. I know we've been on the other end of that, right? I know you have. So, but also we need to realize on ourself to acknowledge, hey, like I can't keep going to, and I used to do this too, right? That's how I learned. I can't keep going to my mom for every single thing because it's not healthy. It's not healthy for her. It's not healthy for me. And she's not equipped to handle all of this support. So we're going to create a support plan. And again, you might not finish this tonight, but I want you to work on creating a support plan. So when you're in your emergency or crisis situations, which we all get into, whether people want to admit it or not, that you have this to turn to. Because when you're in those situations, your body is producing fight or flight chemicals and cortisol, which is a stress chemical, and it's not always you're not always able to make the most clear decisions. So why I put this first is if, hey, I'm in a stressful situation, your only plan for that is go to the book, get the phone number, turn to the person. That's it. You don't have to say, okay, what support do I need? Where can I find that? Is it free? Do I need money? See, if you don't set up this in advance, it's just chaos in the chaos, and you don't need that. So let's work on setting that up. So the first thing we're going to talk about is emergency contacts. Just kind of like I mentioned before, a lot of us like get into emergency situations or call our mom or call our spouse or call people, and just think about how stressful that could be for them. Like they want to help you because they love you, but are they always in the place to help you when you need it? In my circumstance, no, my mom wasn't usually, in the best case, never to help me with some of the things. As I grew a business, she doesn't own a business. As I got older and did things she's never done, like she wasn't equipped to help me, right? Like, and it was almost unfair of me to assume she could. So finding out emergency contacts, I've located a therapist, and some people are like, oh man, I can't afford that. I get that. Part of something I'm building is the healing house, but there are services and people that are willing to help you. I'm from Calgary. I live in Airdrie now, but Calgary Counseling Center, they have a sliding scale. I'm not going to lie, my experience with them was great. I walked in, and when I'm stressed out with my business, it's most likely due to financials. So they were like, how much are you making right now? And I just wrote it on a piece of paper. They never double checked. They never asked me for anything. They just believed me. They could probably see how stressed I was. But anyways, so I was getting sessions for like $38, and that was affordable for me, but they go lower than that. So it's about finding, those places and those that can offer the support you need. Some healthcare services, if you're in Canada, check. Do they cover it? If you're in the US and you're paying for separate ones, do they cover it? Like, it's worth checking into it, you guys. Why is therapy and counseling so important? It's an unbiased opinion and someone who's literally learned tools, like of the trade, and tricks and things they can teach you to help you, go through this. And sometimes they can validate things, like if you're dealing with, say, like a narcissist or someone where, like, my mom completely invalidates my reality a lot when it comes to my child abuse, because I don't think she wants to be like a part of it. I get it. Yeah, it sucked for all of us, but like, you can't just ignore it happened, right? But having a therapist there to kind of validate your experience can literally be life-changing, you guys. Like, someone invalidating your experience like makes you look at everybody a little bit differently. Like, like, am I crazy? Like, I had that thought so much. Like, is anything I'm seeing even right? So having a therapist or counselor there definitely helps you with that. So there are 2 spots there for you. So make sure you take some time to figure that out for yourself. And again, if you're really struggling, I am working on a part of my website, and it's going to be a collective build. So if you know a good service, make sure you keep that in mind, because I'm going to post a TikTok about it, and I'm going to be opening the floor for people to submit services. Or if you are a service, or if you know a service, like, hey, I provide coats to people in the winter or whatever. So that way people can just go, hey, Kendra has the healing house. I can just go there. And, I live in Michigan, and you click Michigan and it opens up the resources for there. That is the dream. That's what I'm building right now. So yes, get your therapists and counselors on board and find those services. They're available for you. And that's what you want for emergency contacts. Can also, we have therapist and counselor in a different spot as well. I want to note that for a reason, okay? Emergency support, therapy and counseling, and like 911 services, okay? It's really hard for you to turn, like, you can turn to your parents and spouses, but like, again, just think about it. Think about their boundaries and talk to them beforehand if you choose to write them down, okay? And emotional support. Let's talk about that one. That is, again, like people like your parents or spouse, people that you trust, people that have listening ears, friends that you can go to that are going to accept you with open arms. Again, the one thing I really want to stress, and we have to all start building this as a habit, in my opinion, is, hey, do you have time to hear me vent? And then asking people on the other end, hey, do you want a solution or support? Those two things in a conversation with people is like night or day life saving, and I'm really trying to adapt them into my life. So, hey, do you have time to listen to me vent? And then on the other hand, do you want support or do you want solutions? Because if someone wants support and you go to them at solutions, I'm a solution-based person. They're like, man, I don't want to hear that. I'm not in that mood. Like, you guys know what it's like when you just want someone to say, yeah, that sucks, right? You don't want to hear like 9 million solutions. You'll probably think of them later, right? So that's that part. Who are your emotional support people? Who can you call for that? So that one I feel like is a little bit self-explanatory, but again, if you have questions. So another thing on here again is other resources. All right. Other resources would be, again, like I was talking about, people who provide separate, like, nonprofit services, places you can go, group hangouts, places like the Fierce Fam. I've literally built it as a place to hang out, get support, learn stuff, get advice, heal, talk to each other in the comments. I know that people have found like lifelong friends in the Fierce Fam, and maybe even marriages. You guys know who I'm talking about. But anyways, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We don't want to jinx it with them. It's not me, by the way. It's not me. Anyways, yeah. So just what are your other things, other places that you can turn to? So other resources, yeah, you can definitely write the Fierce Fam down. I try to go live. Right now I'm kind of just figuring out my schedule, but I try to be live some kind of way in every aspect, or send me a message. There's so many ways. And if it's urgent, like, I feel like it will get to me. It will get to me, and we'll find what you need. All right. So, and then again, we do have therapists and counselor in there. We kind of talked about that already. It's very important, guys. An unbiased opinion. It's so, so, so important. Do you have any guys questions about the emotional support plan? Does that kind of make sense? I'm going to go in the question box here. Oh, yeah. Heather wrote, like, she feels like a burden calling because it's crappy people. The point of the healing house is to find good services. Yes, there are definitely some crappy services out there, but it's worth it for you to keep. That's why we do this when we're feeling good, right? That's why we do this now. So when you find a crappy service, or when you get turned down, or you don't like the price, you're not already stressed out and you're getting double down on the stress, right? So that's a good thing to know, because yeah, there are crappy services, but I also want you to keep in mind, because there's probably some people feeling like a burden calling at all. That's literally what they're there for. It's literally what they're there for. And a lot of times their mental health, it will come out in physical problems. And I know I have a lot of American followers, and your health system sucks. Like, I have been introduced to it a little bit, and man, it is horrid. So like, starting with your, mind, body, and soul at a personal level can help with some long-term stuff, So yeah, that was a good thing to note. But part of the healing house will be finding like people recommending services they've used. I'm not going to just go on Google and find someone who paid, to get a 5-star review, because everyone can do that. I have businesses. I know how to do that. I haven't done it, but I know how, right? So we're going to have recommended services. So there'll be someone for everyone, I believe. I believe. Once it gets fully done. It's just, TikTok reaches the entire world, right? That's why I love it so much. It's got so quick reach, so fast. So I think when I put out that thing and say, hey guys, I'd like to know some really good mental health services you've used so I can compile them in one website, one place, I don't think it's going to be a hard ask, in my opinion. So, all right. That all the questions for that part, your support system there? Nothing? We're good? We're good? All right, cool. So make sure you guys do this. This is VIP. I'm not joking. It's VIP. Like, that's actually one of the most important parts of this. Like, if you want to skip it, like, man, don't. That's all. Okay. So that brings us into the next part. So the next part, we're going to talk about self-care. One of my favorite quotes is self-care is not selfish, it's self-preservation. It is impossible to pour from an empty cup. And honestly, putting yourself first actually allows you to help more people in the mass. Like when I'm giving too much of myself, which I definitely was doing in December at the end of the year, like that's why I took some time to myself and wasn't really posting anything. I needed to fill back up my cup and like figure out what I wanted to do. I can't help people if I'm not helping myself first. All right. Even if you have kids, everything, helping yourself first, you're going to have a greater capacity, more energy, more calm, more flow for everything in your life. Business owners, like I don't know, like I know that, right? Personally, I can't say people can fully argue with the kid thing. I don't have kids, but like, man, I could just imagine if my parents were a little less stressed, right? But I personally have businesses and know when I'm not filling my cup that they struggle. And then when they struggle, it becomes a stress cycle because the businesses struggled and the finances struggled and I release more cortisol and then I get in a chronic stress cycle and all the cortisol affects my emotional regulation. It affects my sleep regulation. It affects everything. And then I release more cortisol and I'm just like, right? So like we have to realize like, hey, I might be in a chronic stress cycle. And then you insinuate self-care. And that can be in many forms. So if you have your book, I do want you guys to get it out right now because this is something you can do in the moment. I want you to write down 20 self-care activities. You're like 20. So we're going to use the comments section to help each other out because there's a few people in the Zoom here. And if you guys want to do it on the TikTok too and share your favorite self-care activities, like obviously, but yeah, I want you to write down 20. That sounds like a bit of a lot, but it's not, and you definitely can do it. So it can be stuff like walking your dog, playing with your kids, exercising, meditation. What are some things that I like to do? I like to go snowboarding. I like to sing. I like to dance. I like to just get out in nature. Honestly, a nature connection of even just 10 minutes, you guys, just 10 minutes can be so grounding. It really like reminds you like we're really such small, we're so small on this little big planet. And you're honestly not to scare you, but like we're just a bubble in a boiling pot. So don't waste it. All right, so we got some in the comments here. Gardening, DIYs. Oh, Heather, I'm so into DIYs too. Oh man. I have my whole basement is filled with half-finished DIYs. I love it. Yes, adequate sleep, healthy eating, Pamela. Yes, bath soaks, playing with dogs, walking, dancing. Ooh, oh my gosh, I love it. Shaving my legs is on the top tier. I agree, actually. I've been single for like a year and a half now, and I still like, I shave them. I'm like, yes, I do it for me. Like, I just love it. If you guys don't shave them, that's fine. I actually don't mind if they're long, mine either. It's the middle stage I don't like. You know, when it's like really itchy and it's sticking in all your leggings? I like if I could just have it long or none and no middle phase and I could just press a button, winning. Because I don't mind it long either, but it's the middle phase. I just can't stand it. It's too itchy. Yeah, meditation. Oh, yes, yes. I love it. I love it. So write down 20 of these. Again, if you guys are just like behind the scenes on the TikTok and you guys don't have my ShadowWork book and you sign up for the class, the link is in the bio, you get the assignment and you get a recording of the class. And so, yeah, that is a thing that you can do if you want it. And then you can have it start to finish and then you can pause it and play it and fast forward it and whatever. So, yeah. Yes. Okay. So does anyone have questions about like self-care? When you're picking self-care activities, I want you to make sure again that they're in alignment with your higher self. We're going to talk about that a little later, but it doesn't have to be anything super spiritual. Just like how what aligns with boss mode activated is kind of what I call it. How is it going to actually make you feel good? As long as it's good for your body, mind, and soul, do it up. But it doesn't have to be on the regular either. Some people have yes, cleaning. I am definitely a cleaning of a self-care activity. I actually did it before this live to de-stress myself and get ready, because this is my first ShadowWork 101 class. And I'm really excited about it. It's something that's really important to me. And I want to be a stress box. I was a little bit at the beginning anyways, but so I did a bunch of cleaning, and I just took some care of some things and sprayed some bleach spray. Like, it's a kitchen bathroom spray. It's safe, but it smells like bleach, and I like that smell. And I let my dog out and just, yeah, that definitely is a Zen activity for me. Also, fun fact, when you clean, that releases dopamine and serotonin, which is a reward chemicals in your brain. So as you complete small tasks, you actually chemically start feeling better about yourself and the situations around you. So practicing gratitude and cleaning is a really good thing to do when you need a little bit of a pump up. Also, at the end, you have a clean house. So it's just all around a great thing. I feel like you have to get started though. It's the getting this started, but yeah, spending time with people, calm vibes. Oh, definitely. Yes, yes, yes. So, another thing I want to note about self-care. Why are we talking about it right now? Before you start any shadow work, and this is my personal recommendation, but it is a high, high, high recommendation, all right? And this is also about brain training and those chemicals that I was talking about. If I want you to choose one of these self-care activities before you take on shadow work every single time that you're going to do after. Why? Shadow work is tough. No matter how you feel going into it, you might feel a little rough after. Knowing you have that self-care activity planned and prepped and ready for you after, it insinuates you to finish it. And also, when you do that self-care reward activity, it releases dopamine and serotonin in your brain. So it's kind of like how we train pets in a way. Like, do this hard thing, you're going to get a reward. So after a while, it becomes a practice and a habit. Your body and brain starts looking forward to doing the shadow work because, hey, we're going to do something cool after. It's really important. It takes 1 second to pick something off this list. And it could be, again, I'm going to do this shadow work and I'm going to have, a super nice coffee and a bath and all this stuff. That's kind of what I do. And yeah, it'll just make you feel a little bit better about it if you're having a rough session per se. All right. So does anyone have questions about the shadow work topic? If it makes you feel, it should align with your higher self, because drugs make you feel good, right? There's a lot of things that could make you feel good that aren't necessarily healthy, right? So it is important that it is a healthy activity that aligns with your higher self. So yeah, again, just think, what is my higher self? If you're choosing activities that don't align with your higher self, maybe you need to address either one of them separate, right? But it should be a healthy activity. Hey, I'm going to do shadow work and I'm going to go do some drugs. I feel like that might be a little bit opposite. I like to partake in the Jolly Green Giant, and I might put that into my self-care activity, maybe, but I try not to, even, because again, it calms me down, but it's not necessarily, a high vibe activity per se. Yeah, it does help me with a lot of things, but it's not, anyways. So yeah, it should be a healthy activity. But other than that, you're pretty much good to go on what you choose there. All right. Just making sure I don't have any more questions in the Zoom here. Nope. All right. So we good to move on to the next one? There's still 45 people hanging out on the TikTok. Cheers. I love that. Yeah, they're just sneaking in. I love it. Buy the recording. I would love that for both of us. I'm just going to say it now. Okay, so we're moving on. On the assignment page, you have your higher self connection. So this is the next topic we're talking about. I know a lot of you guys have been with me on TikTok, or you've seen my moon rituals. Your higher self, again, does not have to be something super spiritual. Just like we have our shadow self as our protector, we have our higher self as our guide. So why we talk about our higher self first, it's motivating, it's inspiring. And I don't, when we talk about our shadow self, that can be a little tough, and it can be hard to switch from those facets, right? So if you go into it right away saying, hey, I'm excited to do shadow work, I'm going to connect with my higher self first, It's honestly just a better process. And plus, as you see as we go through this, it's also going to make it easier for you to pinpoint and target some limiting thoughts and behavior patterns that you're holding on to that may be stopping you from fully aligning with this. So your higher self is your guide, shadow self is your protector. We're not trying to get rid of our shadow self. We're just trying to figure out what's there that could be holding us back from fully stepping into this most of the time. You can insinuate your shadow self whenever you want. Like I did it a couple weeks ago and a little bit this week. It should be more like your choice, right? Like I'm deciding to be shutdown mode right now, not it's just happening to me, right? It feels a lot better when you choose it than when it just happens. So your higher self is in essence an extension of you. As I mentioned, boss mode activated. So get out that paper and I want you to start writing down the traits and qualities of your higher self. So for me, my higher self is confident, calm, consistent, emotionally and financially independently secure, right? So emotionally independently secure. So I'm doing it by myself with, you can have your tools and stuff, but I'm not codependent and financially secure as well. So that's on my list. And just start writing down those traits and qualities. Again, if you're like writing it down and you're like, oh, this doesn't really feel like me. Guys, part of manifestation is just aligning the thought with emotion with the action. If you can think it and dream it, you can do it. It is you. If you're thinking it, it is you. And it might not feel like you every single day, and that's okay. The point of the shadow work and the point of healing and progressing is to get to a point where that seems like your norm, where that is your regular, that you know what, I'm regularly in alignment with my higher self. And even if something comes at me, like I can insinuate which tools I want to use to help me get through that. So that's the goal. And it may kind of seem wild when you're first starting this out, but trust me, it's possible. You will falter. I totally have in the past bit, but for the most part, it's a quick pickup. It's like, man, I fucked that up a little bit. Wish I could do it a little bit better. I will do it better next time. And then I just insinuate this process. So if you guys want to note some of your higher qualities in the chat, that definitely helps other people get inspired with their list. And if you want to do that on the TikTok too, feel free to list the traits and qualities of your higher self. There's no scarcity mindset in this room, okay? So if you're worried about someone copying your answers, you can stay, but just work on that, okay? Usually on TikTok, I say, this might not be the room for you, but you paid to be here, so you can stay, but it's something to note. Yes, emotions are definitely part of your higher self. Definitely, they are. Yes, yeah, right? So, but do not write happy, okay? Why I don't want you to write happy. This is something that is a big struggle I find with and I have a kind of a spiel about this, and this mindset kind of totally changed my life about this. Happiness is a choice. It's not found in people, places, or things. And if you're trying to find happiness in people, places, or things, you are in the pursuit of happiness. And that is indefinite. It's also chemical. It's also addicting. So not only are you just doing these things over and over, but your brain is releasing dopamine and serotonin when you reach these goals. And just like drugs and addictions, when you get that house, it's not going to say, okay, cool, we're good. It's going to say, oh, I need more dopamine. I need more serotonin. I need a bigger house. It needs to be somewhere else. You're just going to be constantly searching for it. Happiness is a choice. So I wake up in the morning, it's like, wow, we get another day. And it's not, you can be happy working on your mental illnesses. You can be happy having a bad day. You can be happy experiencing all different things. You can be more than one emotion at the same time. But waking up and deciding, I am happy, finding gratitude with the abundances I have right now. That's what it is. Because you know what? You can think about being happy about all these goals you might achieve, or you could walk out your door and get hit by a bus. So are you just going to wait for all these things to happen? That's kind of egotistical. We're not guaranteed any time on this planet. So I choose to, when I'm feeling find myself, getting caught up, feeling sad about things, I look around and be like, you know what? I was just driving today. I was like, you know what? My life is pretty freaking great. It's pretty freaking great. You know what? My brother may have blown up my totally paid off car, and that would have saved me a car payment, but I'm driving a super cute Mini Cooper that I totally love and is definitely more my vibe. Is it costing me more money? Is it making me have to work a lot harder? Yeah, but I freaking love it. I'm driving around and the weather is nice. Benny's sitting next to me with his head out the window. He just had a little pup cup, and they give them to him for free. So it's just about finding gratitude in the now. So try not to write that as your higher self. Like your higher self, it's just something that is, because sometimes your higher self can feel like a goal. That's why I want to keep it off the list. Is your higher self you? Yes, you are happy. kind of can seem conflicting, but your higher self can also feel like a goal when you're first starting this, okay? So if you write happy on my higher self is, and then you go to do shadow work and you're like, what's the opposite of happy? It's like, okay. And then it just ends up being like, you just need to make a choice, okay? But joyful, cheerful, all the other tools that you need around you to insinuate that, put that on your list. Like being financially secure helps me feel happy in the moment. It definitely does, right? It takes the stress away. So what are those things that make you feel that? That is your higher self, okay? Does that make sense? I know that can be a little bit confusing, but it's kind of like tricking your brain. I hate to say it, but like, I just had to decide one day, I'm not going to just wake up every morning and say, okay, if this thing happens, I'm going to be happy. And if it doesn't, I'm going to be sad. It can't do that because you never know what's going to happen. Days are crazy, right? Every day is so unreliable, and like change is the only constant, really. So, yeah, you got to be looking forward to it no matter what. No matter what. Okay, does anyone have questions about the higher self thing? Boom, boom. No. Yeah, you can put positive. Yeah, you can put like positive, but at the same time, think about that. Why I actually took positive off my higher self. I actually did. Like through your growth and evolving, you'll like think about things and you'll be like, wait a minute. I actually had pure positivity on mine. But that kind of goes against things that I say, right? Because like yin and yang, you can't have the light without the dark. You can't have, flowers without the rain. It's kind of about finding the harmony of both. So if you put your higher self, yeah, your higher self can be positive, I guess. But that has to, if you're in alignment with your false higher self, that is just insinuating your higher self always has to be positive, which I don't know, like, is anything positive or negative? Just think about what you're writing. You guys got to think about it. Like, what do I want to leave this open? I suggest yes, right? I like the questions though. It makes you think about it. But again, this is whatever again, if you want to write happy, it's definitely up to you. I just suggest if you're working towards feeling that every day, don't write it as a goal because it's you're just going to be pursuing it indefinitely. Yeah. Yeah, self-accepting. Oh, I love that one. Radical self-acceptance is kind of my words of this year, and calm and consistency. That's kind of what radical self-acceptance of myself, everything that's happening in the moment. Because by the way, like I heard someone say through this like talk or whatever, it was like people who spend time thinking all the time about the future or the past, they're technically living in an illusion because it's not what's happening right now. So you decide where you want to live, right? Once I someone told that to me or when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, that's facts." If I'm sitting in the shower thinking about the future or the past, I'm not thinking about the shower. I'm not actually living in the now in here. I'm living in an illusion that my brain is making up. And it's a statistical fact that, testimony is not reliable because your brain, depending on its traumas, its past, its neurotransmitters and everything, makes stories, changes stories, is your blue, my blue, like the whole thing. So, yeah, that's tricky biz. Um, yeah, that's a good question. Okay, what a higher self desire to be valued. How can you can say is valuable, like, because then it becomes your definition of valuable, right? Not other people's. It isn't, it is still is only other people if you want it to be. If you say my higher self is valuable, that is your definition. It's only other people's if you accept that, in my opinion. That I would write is valuable. Because everybody on this planet is valuable, 1,000%. Oh man, you know what my favorite thing to watch is? Special books by special kids. I think everybody needs to watch more SBSK. Like, have you guys watched it? Do you guys know what that is? Do you guys know what that is? Oh my gosh. Man, this guy has made it his life's mission to give a voice to people with learning differences and disabilities on the planet. I literally can spend hours watching it, and like I literally cannot look at human beings the same after watching it. Just, we just judge people so easily and so quickly, and it's just life changing, like I have definitely looked at someone who is in a wheelchair and is maybe suffering from a disease that looks like they can't communicate but is fully comprehending everything. I didn't know for the longest time that people with cerebral palsy just can communicate totally normally for the most part. Some of them can, depending on the scale, right? But that it's more, it can just be body or, all these things. But just learning about all of these different learning differences and stuff just kind of opens your mind. But anyways, you guys should look it up. It's on Facebook, Special Books by Special Kids. And this guy was a teacher and his name is Chris. And how he talks to people and how he communicates with different people is just something to learn. If you want to know how to talk to different people and how to understand, it's really, yeah, it really helps. It really helps. Okay. So I hope that answered your thing. If that gave you some clarity, Zoe, on that, but I would literally just write is valuable. It's your definition. Okay, so moving on to shadow self connection. This is kind of where we start the shadow work. All right. So this is where, oh yeah, comfortable with change is definitely one. This is where we're going to kind of look at some of those limiting thoughts and behavior patterns. So if you're having trouble with this, you might already know some things that you want to work on, but if you're having trouble, this is why we do that higher self first. It's kind of the opposite of that, right? So if you look at your higher self and your higher self is confident, what is the opposite of that, right? Insecure. So maybe if you're struggling with confidence, my shadow self is insecure. So get out your book, and it's in the assignment. You'll see there. It says shadow self connection. You just write down, and it says, I think in the shadow work book, my shadow self is. Start listing some of those traits and qualities. I want you to also look at this more solution based. I don't want you to start writing these things down being like, oh man, there's so many. You also had so many higher self traits and qualities too, okay? So it's about, that's why we kind of do that first. And don't worry about it if it seems to feel unbalanced. It's not about that. This is about finding solutions for yourself. And as you grow and evolve, don't worry, it's going to change. So what are some shadow self qualities that you'd like to work on? For myself, inconsistency is a big one for me this year. One thing, I'm good if I pick one thing and kind of stick with it. I am consistent. I am consistent. So my shadow self is inconsistent, right? And we'll talk about getting into whys later about that. But so some other things, what are, my shadow self makes poor financial decisions, right? If I want to be financially secure, what are some limiting thoughts and behavior patterns my shadow self has that are stopping me from that? It's making poor financial decisions. All right. So, I'm going to write these down actually, because I want to use these exact same ones for the why when we get to that. Oh man, this pen doesn't work. I don't know where I went. I got another green one. All right, so start writing down some of them. Angry. I have, my shadow self is angry, right? So if my higher self is calm, what's the opposite of that? Angry. And yeah, the opposite, whoever you said comfortable with change, yeah, the opposite would definitely be perfectionist and some stuff like that, right? I have that issue that I'm working on as well, right? Is sometimes I hold myself back from posting things because I'm like, oh man, what if I make a mistake? Or, people are going to make fun of me. Like, who cares? If someone makes fun of you, that's a them problem, right? Healthy, happy people do not make fun of people on the internet or anywhere, right? Supportive, successful, happy, healthy people will hold a hand to hold you up. They don't look down on you unless they're holding a hand out to help you up. That is the honest truth, guys. So you got to keep that in mind sometimes. But that helps me with my perfectionist problems. But what are some other shadow self things that you guys, does this make sense to you? Please ask your questions. This is kind of where we're really getting into it. So if you have questions like about that, and we are going to pick out certain situations later on. Right now, we're just kind of putting, one words to things. So if there is situations you experience a lot in your life, that reasons why you're doing shadow work, think about the emotion that you're going through during that time. Okay. So that's what your shadow self is in protection mode trying to help you with, right? So for me, like shutting down in communications that I don't want to deal with anymore, not even reading them at all. I still sometimes do that. If I just am not feeling like answering it, sometimes I just don't read it, right? Because I just don't want to deal with it. That's not healthy, right? So figuring out what that is, like my shadow self is closed off. My shadow self doesn't communicate properly or whatever it is, right? But yeah, got to figure out what the emotions are when I'm going through that certain circumstance is. Yeah, insecure, not confident, indecisive. Yeah, overthinker. I bet you a lot of us have overthinker. And you know what? I can't think of any circumstance where I don't know. There's actually a lot. Never mind. Depends on how you overthink. I would like my aircraft mechanics to overthink, right? There's certain circumstances I would prefer you to overthink, but not in a place where it makes you anxious. So decide for yourself, right? But if going with the flow, your higher self goes with the flow, your shadow self can't be overthinking, right? That's not going to be allowing you to really go with the flow. All right. Do we have any questions about that? I'm not going to spend too much time on this because these things are going to start popping up as we go. As you go in life, you're going to be, I'll share kind of how that goes. But what I'm sharing with you is basically like, okay, you're going through life. Like for me, This Is Us, the TV show, is like straight up just therapy, man. If I need to see what I'm holding on to from my family stuff, I just watch This Is Us. So if I find that I just like cry, if you haven't watched it, it's a show on Netflix. It just touches base on like a lot of family issues and like just any issues. I don't know how they fit literally so much trauma in one show without it seeming weird, but they did it. So if I find myself crying over something, I can say, oh, I'm experiencing, regret or sadness or loss. And I can get out my shadow work journal and say, Kate, that's the emotion. That's where we're starting. Okay. And now we're going to go on to the next step, which is what I kind of call is my personal reaction scale. And this is where we're going to take our top 5 things that we have that we react, our top 5 reactions, and we're going to put them on a scale. Okay, not every emotion is going to fit on this scale, but I find that generally I have top 5 limiting thoughts and behavior patterns that kind of cover everything, right? If you have more, that's okay. But let's just start with 5. And then after that, you can carry on. So this is also in your thing. So look at the list. What is the number 1 thing that you would like to work on right now? Okay. And I actually want you to put that in the number 5 spot because that's the most, I think, let me just double check. I want to make sure I have this right. The most destructive. Yes. Just double checking. Yes. So 5. So the thing you want to work on the most will be number 5. Okay. That's the most destructive. So you're at a 5. Okay. For me, that's, I would say that's like shutting down completely. My 5 is shutting down completely at this point. Like just saying, you know what? I just never want to deal with you ever again. That is not healthy. So then my number 4, before I do that, what is the thing you do kind of before you do that? For me, it's usually explosive anger. If someone's not listening to me, if I've tried to calmly say my point multiple times, if I try to express myself in multiple different ways, and I don't choose to take space or insinuate my healthy reaction, usually explosive anger before I shut down. Okay, so that would be your number 4. What is your number 4? And again, you might not be able to think of these right away, and that's okay. But trying to like label these down on a scale it's cognitive behavioral therapy, fam. It really is. So I'm just kind of creating this in the moment. You can say, man, I'm at a 5. What do I do? And we'll talk about that also in this class. Okay. So before that, I would say for me, number 3 on my personal reaction scale of things that I would like that is limiting me in my communication would probably be frustration and reiterating my point too many times. That's not healthy, you guys. If someone is not choosing to listen to you, you do not have to explain yourself over and over and over again. That is not healthy for you to have to do that. It's not healthy for you to do that. Why? What comes from explaining yourself over and over and over and over and over again? Frustration, anger. So as you see, you start going up the scale. So again, there's different things that I insinuate, and we'll talk about those plans as we go through. But number 3 for me would be that frustration, and explaining myself is the behavior over and over again. So I experience frustration and I explain myself, over explain myself. And actually to some people, like that can be like, are you even telling me like the truth? But as we talk about our whys, I over explain because to my parents never believing me, denying my reality, right? So as you see, we go through and we're like, oh man, I over explained myself in these situations because my parents never believed anything I said. Okay, like these kids hit me at school. No, they didn't, right? Like just being, and that's where that comes from. Again, we'll talk about that. We touch base on the whys, but so again, figuring out that list for you guys. Do you have any questions, kind of how that list? I have a new personal reaction scale, I guess, but my number 2, I think, before frustration, I don't know. I feel like I'm not really at a 5 scale anymore. Like it's kind of nice. Let me see if I can think of anything. Yeah, no, my kind of personal reaction scale is like at a 3 steps right now. So that's okay. If you don't get to 5, I think that's totally okay. It used to be 5. I used to have a lot of things, like, yeah, shutting down, getting in anger, calling people names. I stopped doing that like forever ago, but that could be on your scale. Like if you call people names, that could be on your scale. Or if you call yourself names, or if you turn to victim blaming. There is victims, you guys. There's a big difference. But saying that everything is happening to you in life is part of taking a victim mentality. And it's something I had to realize I was doing and being like, I still kind of do it. Like, why are you doing this to me? Why is this happening to me? Right? People are just choosing their actions. Things are happening. However, some things do get done to you. Physical abuse, people calling you, even people calling you names is still their action. But so you do have to separate that. But deciding, am I taking like, a victim mentality stance on this? I wish there was a different word for that. I really wish there was a different word for it. I'm gonna look it up, maybe find one, but that's kind of still what they call it, unfortunately. Um, but if you guys know of one, I'd like to change that word because it kind of takes away like victims coming forth. It kind of takes away their credibility, That's why I don't really like that term, but I don't really know of another one right now. But anyways, just taking ownership of your thought pattern when it comes to that. Okay. So do you guys have questions about that scale? So figuring out just what you want to put on that scale, and then just what's the most destructive thing and the least destructive thing. Put it on a scale. That one I feel like is pretty like self-explanatory a bit. If you have questions, still feel free to ask them. But no, this is just a scale of how you react to things. Like, like me, it doesn't matter the situation. If I'm at my max point, I'm going to shut down and not talk to you again. It doesn't matter the situation, right? And that's kind of why we do this first. If we start touching base on situations first and triggers first, you're just going to sit there and write this infinite list. That's why I don't do it first. But if you start thinking about, okay, what are some big reactions I have without thinking about all the situations first, when we start thinking about the situations, it really narrows down your new neural patterns, or your healthy dream reactions, what I call it, in how we're going to do it, or your action plan, right? So that's why it makes it just a little bit less overwhelming to start with. How do I react when I'm at my 5? That's all I want to know. How do I react when I'm at my 4? What do I do when I'm at my 3, 2, 1, right? Because we can do triggers all day. And I mentioned this when we get to it, is like, if you start there, you'll be like, oh, okay, kids leaving dishes in the sink, people driving bad on the road, people being slow, my coworkers suck. You will just sit there and write an infinite list. But if you start doing it this way, once we get to that part, you might be like, oh, wait a minute, maybe that's not them, maybe that's a me thing, And it's just a lot less overwhelming, I find. Okay, so yeah. Oh yeah, Zoe says I agree with Kendra about the word victim mindset. It's tough having being a victim. Yeah, same, myself too, and wanting to internally own that without feeling like you're basing your identity. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing, right? Um yeah, so I'm going to look into it a lot, but we got to find a different word for like, just it's almost like being delusional about the situation. Like, am I at fault here and blaming other people? Sometimes you don't realize you're the one, doing the reacting instead of responding, right? There's a big difference. A reaction is usually an uncontrolled behavior or emotion that comes out. A response is thoughtful, it's thought about. So I use that word very carefully in the stuff I've sent you. I think I have to make some changes in here, but yeah, there's difference between a response and a reaction, right? Okay, so moving on to the next one. This is where we're going to talk about why. This is where it's going to take you probably a little bit to maybe figure it out. And big thing to note, you're not going to be able to necessarily figure this out right away. And why it's important to start noting the emotions when they come up is randomly you might just be going through life, or you might be at a family event. It happens a lot. And then you'll see something because you're looking to find the answer because you've acknowledged it. And then all of a sudden you'll realize like, oh, wow, my parents do that. Oh, wow, that's where that comes from. And then you can make a note in your phone, or and then you say, okay, I need to write that down in my ShadowWork journal. And then when you know the why or where it's coming from or the root cause, then you can start working on solutions. But again, if we just go for triggers, there could be many solutions to different triggers in your life, like so many, right? And the example that I give is like, say you're reacting angrily because you're not taking care of your diet. So this is a personal example. I have ADHD. I live alone. I don't get hunger triggers. I really don't. Sometimes I just don't get hungry for like days, but I know I need to eat because I feel the energy, but I also get hangry. I get really hangry. And that is kind of my note now. But if I didn't know, if I didn't look for the root cause, and I'm just going around being hangry, just nonchalant, not realizing it's coming from me, I might think that, oh, people are driving bad in traffic. I'm angry. People are driving bad. I'm angry about it, instead of realizing they might have things going on, whatever are my other thought processes. Or I go to work and I'm hangry, and instead of, oh, my coworkers, they're so annoying, they just drive me nuts, instead of realizing that they're just acting normally, but I'm hangry because I'm not taking care of my diet. So if I was just to go through all the things that were bugging me in life at that time without looking for the root cause first, I'm going to try and solve, okay, my coworkers being annoying. I might get a new job. Like, you might make some big significant changes off something that's just like, oh, I haven't been taking care of my diet. And like, you might get a new job. You might, change cities. You might take a totally different route to work, even though it might take you 15 minutes longer and you need to get there an hour early, instead of solving the one root cause, which is just taking care of your diet, right? But a lot of times people are like, oh man, and life's happening to me, instead of being like, what am I doing? Because this seems to be happening frequently, Does that make sense? So I want you to look at your personal reaction scale, and I want you to start thinking about some deeper reasons. Okay, why are you getting angry? And again, this might not come to you right away. You might just be like, whoa, like, wow. But after time, something might appear. And someone noted, why haven't like 99% of my bosses? So again, sometimes people are jerks. I'm not going to discount that, you guys. You might go to work and your coworkers might suck. But at the same time, if you're taking care of body, mind, and soul, you know that it's all of that is out of your control, and you should have healthy action plans to insinuate when you get frustrated, angry, or whatever emotion you feel when those coworkers bug you, right? You see how that works? So, oh, you notice, oh, maybe your coworkers are really annoying and you can handle it for like 2 hours of the day. And you realize, okay, I'm starting to get frustrated. So now I'm doing the things I do when I'm frustrated. Okay, now because I'm not solving it, I start to get angry. And then after that, I'm just going to shut down. How about we notice like, oh, I'm starting to get frustrated. And that's when the ShadowWork comes in. What is something else? I don't want to get angry. I don't want to get frustrated. What am I going to do instead? So we use like the coworkers is the trigger, which we'll talk about. The frustration is probably coming from my lack of care of my diet, right? So what am I going to do? I'm getting frustrated. Hey, did I eat today? Did I have breakfast? I'm going to go get a snack and go for a walk. Way better than spending the entire day freaking frustrated. Way better than getting mad, maybe out, saying something and getting yourself in trouble at work, potentially getting yourself fired, right? Yeah, sometimes your coworkers suck. But if it's sucking for a long time and you're taking care of body, mind, and soul, then you need to say, maybe you need a new job, right? And that's also shadow work, realizing your boundaries and sticking to them, and just not letting people continually suck out of your cup. But yeah, it's kind of like it's a whole little process here. But trying to figure out the why first, it really helps you kind of with all these triggers. Another one I really like to bring up is like dishes in the sink, like, and yelling at people for leaving dishes in the sink. So the thing about that is like, I get it. If someone left the dishes in the sink 100 days out of the year, every day of the year, that's frustrating. But a healthy person should be able to still not yell about that, right? They should just be trying to find different solutions, whatever it takes. Yelling is, in my opinion, still not a healthy reaction to anything other than saving your life and like getting out of danger. Like, when is yelling healthy at somebody? It doesn't reiterate the point unless they literally can't hear you. Let's put that on there too, because like, hard of hearing people, you might need to yell at them. But yeah, like, it's not a healthy reaction. There's so many other ways. So I want you to sit and think about it. Like, why are you yelling though? That's the first question I try to ask myself now. Okay, I had this thing happen. Why am I yelling? Did your parents yell at you? Are you yelling because they yelled at you? Is this a learned behavior? That kind of seems to be generally the case when I bring up some of these examples. Or again, is there a different root cause? Like you aren't taking care of your diet and you're hangry, or you have a really stressful job environment. Instead of trying to fix it, you just keep putting yourself through it, and then you're stressed out when you get home. And hurt people hurt people. We try not to, but when we're at our max, we do, and that's why you're yelling. Or so the dishes in the sink really isn't the problem. It seems like the problem, but like are you going to respond or are you going to react? And if you're having a reaction that you don't love, figure out why. That's the trigger. What's the why? Try to solve the why, not the trigger. Like, you know what? You might not ever be able to solve the trigger, you guys. That's out of your control. That's literally the biggest point of this is like, you might tell your kids a million different ways, 5,000 ways to Sunday, not to put the dishes in the sink. Who knows why they're doing it? They might have undiagnosed mental illness. They might go through depression. They might be being lazy. They might have undiagnosed ADHD. The entire reason my parents yelled at me my whole entire childhood, undiagnosed ADHD. But no one took the time to minute to figure it out. No one. So I just got yelled at my entire youth about every single thing I did. So do you think that I thought I was doing anything right at any point? No, 0%. But like, not all of that. Again, it was my parents couldn't control me leaving the dishes, apparently. But they could definitely probably have controlled themselves yelling at me. But why were they yelling? They worked a million jobs. They were really stressed out. I was pretty annoying kid. I was hard to deal with. But like, I can see their whys. And in figuring out your whys, it kind of gives you more empathy to figure out other people's whys, which is also kind of a fun thing about this. It's like a little flip thing benefit of it, right? It's, people are acting and reacting to different things in their life, and it's not because they're necessarily mad at you. So I don't say you have to justify people's actions, but it makes it easier to empathize with them, which can help you choose a better response, right? So in basics, that's kind of how we try to do this. So does anyone have any questions about that? As you go through the why, again, you might not know where they're coming from. So what I want you to know is, okay, if you experience a shadow or a limiting thought or belief that is unwanted, write it down and then say, okay, why? Why is this happening? And if you can't, then you just leave it. That is a huge thing to note. Some people, and I think because I didn't note this before, we're sitting there like, how do I figure this out? I need to figure this out. It's not always possible. And another thing, we also created a support plan. This is a perfect time to insinuate you're a therapist or your counselor. Fun fact, they're actually trained to help you figure this stuff out. And this has actually happened, people have sent me multiple messages that they have walked in with this book to literal therapists and counselors, and they have been like, holy crap, you're doing half the job. So you're going to pay for, it's actually helping you with like your therapy and like your money if you're budgeting for that, because you're actually putting yourself ahead of what they're going to try and get out of you. So just bring this book with you to your therapist and counselor and say, hey, I'm really struggling to find the root cause of this. All right. Because some people are asking me, and like, I'm not a therapist or counselor. I'd love to do it, but it's like 8 years of school, and like they don't have an accelerated program, and I just do not have the patience for it. So we'll see how this plays out. But but yeah, that's a good time to insinuate the people who went to 8+ years of school to figure out those things. Okay. And that's why we did it first. So also, if you know people, you can ask other people. Just remember though, if you ask an untrained opinions aren't necessarily facts, and that person also has their own past limiting thoughts and behaviors. So it's more like it's something just to take into consideration when it comes to like your mental health and doing these things. If it's something that's really bothering you, in my opinion, I wouldn't personally suggest asking random people, your mom, your brother, your significant others. Like if you're really struggling with a deep shadow and you'll know it, I do suggest finding some proper help with it. You can keep going, trying to solve it yourself too. Just keep working at it. It might just appear. You might just watch an episode of This Is Us and be like, dang. But also it's worth putting that, even if you book one session, take a huge list. It's worth putting the time into. It really is. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just reading the chat here. Oh, I love that. Oh, yes. Oops, I dropped a bunch of stuff. Help being a mom. Yeah, learn to parent different. Yeah, I'm not a parent now, but I want to be in my life, whether adopted, my kids, who cares? I'll probably have a lot of adopted kids, is the plan. But I want to just be able to just be on a level of like, yeah, empathy, which I feel like I didn't have. No one tried to understand me ever. They just tried to put me in a corner where I wouldn't disturb other people. Luckily, they knew I wouldn't hurt myself. I was just a bubbly kid, just like bopping around like a ping pong, like ping pong, mimo. I want everything. I want to experience all the things at once. That was me. But I would annoy other kids and disturb the other kids in doing that. So they would mostly, I spent all of grade 3 in the office, all of grade 3, the whole of grade 3, just sitting by the gym. And I remember it. There was like the gym air was different because they were pumping it in because it was a gym. And they would sit me behind the door of the theater. And because of the different air pressures, I could float my papers like above it all of grade 3. I just sat there for a year floating papers on air. I still passed though, but I think it's because they didn't want me in grade 3 anymore. So just a little bit of understanding would have been nice. So I really love that these generations, and we're all putting this work into doing this. It's literally changing generations. Like it's huge deal. It's big work. So yeah, again, you should be really proud of yourselves because it's tough. All right, let's move on to the next section here. We're flying through this. I think we're doing a good job. I feel like we're doing a good job. Self high five. What time is it? Yes. We're an hour and a half. Oh wait, I started at 9:15. We're going a little bit long, but I'm gonna try and rush it along, but not too much. I just want you guys to have all this information at once. I've been trying to post it on TikTok and it's just not working. So if you guys have this video, you can do this in your own time, and it's just like bada bing good for everybody. So, all right, cool. Gratitude and forgiveness. Again, we're not going to spend too much time on this one because this will be something I want you to take some time and do with yourself. All right. I'm going to read what I wrote here. We are very conditioned to think about our past in a negative way, always looking for ways to improve and letting our inner critic beat us up over and over for things that we can't undo. The only thing we can change about the past is our mindset about it. So when you find yourself reminiscing and not in a positive way, that's when you want to get out your shadow work journal and note these emotions that you're feeling and try to figure out why. Learning to find the lesson and expressing gratitude for our missteps instead will allow you to have a more positive outlook towards stressors in your life. Instead of telling yourself you failed, ask yourself what you can do better next time. You don't owe anything to the person you were in the past except gratitude for getting you to where you are now. Holding negative emotions from the past towards yourself and others is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You're only hurting yourself. And you also have no control over others, only your own mindset. So we need to work towards forgiving ourselves and situations out of our control to release our energy and the control these situations have over us. So the letter I would like you to write it's forgiveness and gratitude for things that you're holding on to. So sitting there and thinking about what am I holding on to that's happened in the past that I just need to let go of. So forgiveness is not in a sense of giving a pass to past people, because I've been asked this question like, oh man, this person was deserves no forgiveness. That's fine if you feel that way. You don't have to forgive them personally. It's forgiving the situation and forgiving your energy in it, and not like, oh, I shouldn't have been there, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know what? It happened and I'm choosing to let it go. And I do want you to try and have a goal of forgiving the people too. In learning the empathy of how people act and react, and as yourself too, you kind of learn like, oh man, this person acted in a way that was not in a way that benefited me, and had really bad outcomes for me, but you can almost kind of see where it comes from. And that is not justifying their actions, but it can also kind of make you realize like, man, most of the time, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It really doesn't. Like it, again, just like I said, yelling to a trigger is a reaction. That is not a response, an unhealthy one. And maybe someone abused you, and I've been there. And maybe someone took advantage of you. I've been there. And I forgive them in a sense that I can understand that you have things in your past that made you do this. And I forgive you for that. That is the forgiveness, right? It's like just more of an understanding. And I don't want to be tied to this situation anymore. So I understand that you are reacting in this way because of your past or whatever, but I'm choosing to forgive the situation and you for that. And you know what, just because you forgive them doesn't mean that they're not going to have punishments. Karma's real, man. I fully believe in karma. Like, you really, I whatever you believe, I'm not a religious person, but I don't know, I feel like I've seen it play out so many times. But you don't have to worry about it. It doesn't matter, right? It's not your experience and not your life. So if you choose to hang on to these things and you don't, you want to just carry that around in your baggage, it potentially could not let you move forward. And if they were, and I kind of think to myself, if they were able to do that in the first place, are they even thinking about me now? That's literally what I tell myself. If I catch myself being like in like that, are they thinking about me? You know what? They were kind of a jerk in the first place. Chances are they probably are not. Right? And there's another thought that I have to combat that too, is like, I've done things in my life that I'm not proud of that have hurt other people probably, right? Am I really sorry about it? Yeah, and I've probably told them, but if I can't or I haven't, like, I am, yeah, there is a chance that that person feels bad about the things they've done to me too, right? So it's just about thinking like, you know what? Just carrying on to this, I can't change it, so I'm just going to decide to forgive myself, the situation, and release it. And that's not going to happen right away. All right, it really isn't, and it might never happen for some circumstances, and that's okay. The main thing I want to reiterate about this shadow work and this process is like, it is okay how you want to experience it. And if you're really struggling with the forgiveness, like, again, insinuate your support plan and your therapist and counselor. And I don't have any religious background at all, but I know like a big part of that is like forgiveness, and I like that part of it. There are some like really annoying parts of like that, but but that's like, forgiveness in the sense of releasing your energy is, it's, trust me, I've held on to some things for years and I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, what is the actual point of me being completely holding a grudge for this? I don't hold a grudge to anything now. Nothing. Once it's passed, I will say my piece about it, choose how I want to move forward, and that's how it will be. You need to make a choice. Am I hanging on to it or letting it go? If you want to hang on to it, have fun, right? You're deciding to put it in a bag and carry it with you. All right, I'm going to just check on this thing here. Yeah, exactly. Forgiving, but not letting to repeat. Definitely. That comes with boundaries, right? That's boundaries. Yeah, forgiveness is understanding where it's the empathy of it. Yeah. And you can literally forgive them for doing it too. Like, say someone comes up to you and literally apologizes to you. Has someone apologized to you and you've not forgiven them? Why? Think about it. You don't need to tell me, but think about it. If someone actually has come to you and apologized properly, there are definitely fake apologies out there. Sorry you feel that way is not a fucking apology. But if they've come to you honestly with integrity and apologized, why are you not forgiving them? People make mistakes. You and I make mistakes. You make mistakes. I make mistakes. So you got to think about, why are you choosing to hold on to it? That's a you thing, right? And if you can't figure it out, again, therapists and counselors can help you with that kind of stuff. Yeah, human design can definitely be helpful too. Definitely. But again, like, you don't necessarily, if you're not willing to research a whole entire personas of human beings, which I know some people aren't. Even me, I don't do human design because it's like, man, I'm learning so many things right now. There's so many things to learn, but it kind of goes along the life path things, but it does help. And just taking the time to learn that and understanding people is definitely going to help you for sure. Okay, so when it comes to this letter, I just want you to write it down. It doesn't really matter how you want to script it, but you don't have to. I've asked this a lot too, of like who to address this to, and it's happened many times. There's a struggle. There's no definitive answer. So address it to however you want, but it's your letter. So I literally write, I forgive blah, 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 or I forgive myself. That's all the prompts that you need to start that. So I forgive myself for, or I forgive blah, blah, blah for this. And then your reasons why. And then at the end of it, I express gratitude. Like, I am grateful for where I am today. Though I experienced tough situations in the past, everything I've done and experienced, it allowed me to sit in this seat, in this moment, in this room, talking to you, all of it, everything, all the sucky stuff, the trauma, the deaths, the everything, it all brought me to right here. And when you start practicing gratitude, you start realizing how actually incredible that is, because there are people literally sitting in hospitals wishing for one more hour, one more breath, one more day. And you're sitting here right now, and you, to my knowledge, have that opportunity as of this moment. You are right now can make choices. So that's also something to keep in mind. So yeah, I express that in my letter, and it helps me really, Okay, any questions there? No? Aw, thought about it and I can't make sense of it. Like the hurt just sticks like loose sometimes. Thought about what? Which part? Just putting this out. And that's, oh, I think I know what you're talking about. It's like stuff that you're really hanging on to, right? It's a practice. It's literally a practice. And I honestly feel like I don't have any, like, for sure on this, but like, just like you get addicted to like good stuff in your life, like, you can, like, you're thinking about hanging on to this stuff. Like, maybe there's certain chemicals being produced while you're thinking about this. Like, I don't know, right? That one I don't actually know. So, but why we get stuck in trauma, I'm not the scientist on that. So again, that's why we have this support plan, right? But I know from personal experience that practicing this over time as you do shadow work and evolve, I know at the beginning it can seem really hard to like forgive certain situations and past things you've done and people have done. But over time, as you start doing this, it becomes easier. So just continually write the letters. And I noted this in the video and I forgot to say it here. Yeah, or maybe I did. You don't have to forgive anybody right away. You can say, I'm trying to understand why this happened. I can't forgive you yet, right? Just right where you are. But in practicing the forgiveness over time, your brain starts opening up to, again, maybe it's time to let this go. But I know right in the beginning of it, because I kind of remember when I first started shadow work, I was like, I will never forgive this person ever in my life. I don't care how much gratitude I do. I don't care how they literally ruined everything. I was there. I've been there. But now I can honestly say if that person sat in this room, I would just look at them. I don't know if they would get a hello from me at this point. I will be honest with you, but I can definitely say that I will not cry and I will not turn around and run out the door. And I don't think I could say that 2 years ago. So yeah, it's about it takes time. It takes time. Okay, so moving on to the next thing is triggers. This one is pretty simple. This one do on your own time. We've got our personal reaction scale. You have some limiting thoughts and behavior patterns you're experiencing. Think about your triggers. All right. This is the time to think about, okay, what is making me angry in my life? What is this? What is happening? What is happening? And maybe that will help you start opening up some whys, which is nice. But again, why I don't start with triggers right away is because there could be a lot of them. All right. And once we start noticing the triggers, you can say, okay, is this solvable with solving this root cause? Or is this something I need to add to my shadow work? Okay. So that's kind of the question you ask now when a trigger arises. Okay, is this happening because of a root cause for my personal reaction scale? Why, right? You're asking the why. If not, you can say, okay, maybe this is something new that I need to add, and then you add it. Does that make sense? So just, I'm experiencing this thing. Does it fit on my personal reaction scale? Yes or no? So the why is this happening? The personal reaction scale is a list of whys. Okay, does it fit on there? Yes or no? No? Yes? Okay, move forward. Yes? We're going to create action plans for that. And if no, we add it and then we create an action plan. Okay. So I'm going to read what I wrote here just in case I miss anything. Trigger is something that affects your emotional state, often significantly, by causing extreme overwhelm or distress. A trigger affects your ability to remain in the present moment and in control. It may bring up specific thought patterns which could influence your behavior in unwanted ways. We are talking about our triggers after we discuss the deeper root cause or your why, because as mentioned, there could be many triggers in your life that cause you to become angry or whatever emotion. However, trying to figure out the root cause first will decrease the overwhelm you will experience when it comes to creating healthy plans for these triggers. If we just started with the triggers, you could be trying to create action plans for each and every one instead of creating 1 or 2 action plans for the root cause. So once we take note of these triggers, we can then match them up with the appropriate emotion on our personal reaction scale, then insinuate the healthy dream reaction, which we're going to talk about in the next step. Okay, does that make sense? So you got a trigger. Does it fit on the scale? Yep. And the scale is going to have a plan. Okay. Now let's, if you have questions about that, throw them in the comments. But if you don't, we're just going to go back. We're going to go on to the action plan. Okay. This is literally cognitive behavioral therapy. Just straight up. This is how am I reacting? How do I want to react? What am I going to do when I do that? Okay. So creating an action plan, it's time to create new neural pathways. So neural pathways are how the information is shared in your brain. And as we go through life and learn things and grow and experience stuff, neural pathways are created. Okay, so these have been created over time. And again, as our parents teach us stuff, they're passing down like their neural pathways technically. And these neural pathways create automatic responses in your life. So whatever, you have your brain and that's your pathways, and then you respond and react in life. Okay. Yeah, we need to make these plans so that we can have healthier reactions. So we're going to take a look at the personal reaction scale and acknowledge some of the ways we would normally react to these situations, and then write down some healthy dream responses. Okay, so look at your first or your fifth. So you can do the one that if this is how you're feeling. Some of us are like eat the frog people, right? And they're like, I'm doing the hardest thing first. Okay, if you're doing that, choose number 5. If you're someone who's like a little wary about shadow work and you're like, I don't want to get overwhelmed, choose number 1. Okay, you're going to choose something on your personal reaction scale. Now, think about how you really react to those emotions. Okay, so say anger is your number 5. How do you react when you're really, really angry? Okay, do you shout? Do you yell? Do you call names? All right, write down those unhealthy reactions. There is a spot like in the journal that's part of it. Okay, so we write down in the I have it is a guided journal, right? So we went through the emotion. What is it? Okay. And in the book I'm experiencing this why, and that would be the personal reaction skills part. I'm actually going to change this for the new one, but and then we express the gratitude for it. But yeah, my current reaction is, so what is that for you? Noting it. Now, I want you to think about how you want to react instead. Now write that down. Write down both. I react like this. I want to react like this. So instead of shutting down when I get super, super angry and excommunicating people, maybe I take a minute and I set up a proper boundary and say, still sometimes I'm still going to shut down people completely. Like that's that's okay. But like say, I want to do something different. I'm going to insinuate my new action plan of taking a day to think about it, giving them a proper time of when I'm going to contact them back, and having another conversation and going at it one more time. Okay, so instead of shutting down, I'm going to take a day. The more details you can be, the better, like literally. So your brain says, and it's going to be a practice. Okay, I'm feeling in shutdown mode. I'm going to take a day. That's my action plan. Take a day. So you are now cognizantly trying to build and will build new neural pathways. They're not going to be your automatic responses right away, guys. Reaction, sorry. It's not going to be your automatic reaction right away. This is going to have to be something that you put in place. So your shadow self put in these automatic protectors of shutting down, and you weren't necessarily cognizant of that. And that sucks. I get it. But now we have to be cognizant, like, okay, I'm in shutdown mode. I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to take a walk in some space. Okay. So now go through, or not now, when you have time, when we do that, go through that reaction scale and just figure out some different plans. Okay. If you do the root causes first, like you might realize like, hey, I get hangry a lot. And really the only time that I'm reacting is when I'm hangry. So you might only have that one thing you need to work on. That's not generally the case though. If you're here, there's probably a few things. All right. So just go through that and say, I want to react this way instead. And then does that make sense? Because we're kind of going on to the next one, which goes in with that one, but see if there's any questions about that. So you're writing down how you react and how you want to react instead. This is just cognitive behavioral therapy. Someone on TikTok commented that they loved watching me drink out of this water bottle, and I just can't get it out of my head. Like every time I drink out of it, I just kept thinking of that comment. I'm like, why though? My brain's like, why? I double filter the water because I live in Airdrie and it tastes really weird. I live in a really old house, so I double filter it, and it doesn't taste weird now. That's all. That's why I like it. All right, so no questions there? All right, we'll just go right on to it. Part of building these neural pathways. Now we're gonna, oops, that was really loud. We're gonna do brain chemicals now. Okay, so we're building new neural pathways, which is science and like biology. So let's double down on it. So you know that self-care reward list you made at the beginning? I want you to now match up a self-care reward for your action plan. Okay, so going with mine, say instead of shutting down, I say, hey, I need to take a day to think about this. I will contact you in 24 hours, to continue the conversation. All right. Say I do that. What am I going to do now? I'm probably going to treat myself. Now I'm not probably, I am, because I insinuated my shadow work, my healthy action plan. I might go for ice cream. I might call a friend and hang out. I feel like I'm treating myself all the time. So just do whatever I want whenever I want. But I might whatever it is. Yeah, just insinuate that, but match it up. So you honestly, you look at the list, there'll kind of be something that kind of matches. So if you choose to, take space and go for a walk, like maybe taking your dog to the park and going into the store and buying your dog a treat, like you don't always have to spend money, but maybe that's your self-care reward, is like being able to treat your dog. Yeah, that's something I like doing. We go to Pisces and I just let Benny walk around however he wants to sniff things. Like, go at it, man. And I just follow him around the store for 30 minutes because I don't want to walk outside because I don't think I was supposed to be born in Canada. So I just take him to Pisces and like he loves it. And then we go to Starbucks and he gets a pup cup. Like, that's a treat for both of us. I take myself and I get myself a Starbucks. I'm trying to be financially secure because my higher self is. So now Starbucks is a self-care reward for me. It's not something I'm getting all the time, right? So now insinuate that. What's that going to do? Just like we talked at the beginning, it's going to release serotonin and dopamine in your brain, which are reward chemicals and highly, highly addictive. Your brain is addicted to those chemicals. It is. And that's actually the chemicals that are released along with epinephrine in your brain when you're like in love. So the love chemicals and oxytocin. So all of those happen when you're like in love, and then it's like an addiction, and then you become a love addict. And that's what I think of it now. Those people who like can't get over their exes right away, that like you're literally a love addict. I feel it. We've been there. So anyways, you can fight fire with fire with that, but I don't know how you become an opposite of a love addict. I haven't worked on that one yet. I'm not willing to take that on. Nope. That's too much for me. But yeah, so pick out a self-care reward. Okay. So does anyone have questions about that one? I feel like that's pretty easy, right? How are you reacting? How you want to react? How am I going to treat myself when I do it? Guys, this is literally chemical and it works. It's what I did. And now, do I always do my self-care plan? No, because I'm still learning. I'm not a perfect person. And nobody is. I've only been doing this for 2 years. There's some things that it might take me years to work on. Maybe some things my whole life I have with me. But acknowledging them makes me feel a lot better after, if I don't react in a way that I want, and I can say, I forgive myself for that. That's why we do the forgiveness and the gratitude. It's really important to practice this because it helps, I forgive myself for that. I was not in alignment with my higher self. I acknowledge this, and if you hurt somebody, apologize. I'm sorry for my actions. How can I be better? That's an apology. Okay. If you don't feel like you should apologize, then don't give people fake apologies. It's the worst ever. It's like counterproductive. Okay. So just say, I forgive myself. I'm grateful for the lesson. That's the gratitude I usually put on things that I can't find gratitude for. I'm grateful for the lesson, man, because I know I can be a little bit better. Forgiveness, gratitude. How do I want to react? How am I reacting? How do I want to react next time? How am I going to treat myself if I do it? Okay. So I actually have a step-by-step just summarize of like how that again goes. Is connecting with your higher self is a great thing to do before shadow work. Again, reminding yourself what boss mode is when it's activated. Okay. Acknowledging the behavior or thought pattern. So the shadow, then ranking it on that personal reaction scale if possible, and then figuring out why you're experiencing it. Putting it on the personal reaction scale can help you with the why. And then expressing gratitude and forgiveness. Locate any and all possible triggers for that emotion. Write down your current reaction. Write down your new healthy action plan. Choose a self-care reward for when you insinuate the plan. And then optionally choose an affirmation to go along with it. I don't always put that there because like I know when you're like stressed out, it's not always easy to be like, think of an affirmation, and that's not always for everybody. But if you have one, like for me, mine, like I am consistent, I am calm, even if something feels wrong. There's a lesson. I ain't stressing. I will keep my mindset strong. That is my personal one. So if you guys want a personal one, I will make you one. I love it. And like only one person commented. Go comment on my post on TikTok. I will make you one. Also, you have to be okay with me sharing it though, because they help other people. But yeah, if you want me to take some of your affirmation words and make you one, because I literally was saying it in the shower. Something was frustrating me earlier. And oh yeah, P.O. box. They shut off my P.O. box for 2 months because they said I didn't pay because I thought I paid for 6 and I only paid in for 3. And then I paid for a new 3 months, and they charged me for the 2 months that they had my P.O. box shut down. And they sent packages back to the UK in that time. And I was so freaking mad. Oh, I was so mad. because I was already mad that they sent the packages back because they weren't supposed to, because they give you a grace period. So that was already frustrating. And then to find out they actually charged me after all that, I was just like, eh. So anyways, I was like, no, I am consistent. I am calm. Even if something feels wrong, there's a lesson. I ain't stressing. And the lesson, when I say this, the lesson was, I need to move my PO box. I've been trying to move my PO box. That place sucks. They've always sucked. I've never had a good opinion about them. My lesson is move your damn box. I've been trying to move it for months. So anyways, learned the lesson, moving the box, affirmation in place. So that's an option. All right. I have a little bit of a conclusion. So healing through shadow work can be tough, and it is a lifelong journey for most people. You should be so proud of yourself for taking the time to acknowledge and heal these limiting thoughts and behavior patterns so you can align with your higher self and step into your dream life. Healing these behaviors will allow you to have more fulfilling relationships and regulate your emotions to bring you more calm. Releasing the hold of these thoughts and patterns over your life will leave you more space for all of your manifestations and abundances. During this course, I broke down a basic process you can use to work through emotions and thoughts as they arise in a healthy way. So again, this is just kind of one process. There's probably a many, but I also have a book called Mind Over Mood, by the way. It's a really big, well-known book. And I've kind of I just try to summarize what they were teaching me in all of these chapters of way too much reading and way too many examples. Into this book, kind of I'll show it to you. It's really good. If you want to get it, if you're really struggling, I highly recommend it. But there is a lot of reading for stuff that can be said very quickly, in my opinion. It's a very known book. So yeah, second edition. People ask me which one to buy. It's called Mind Over Mood. So this is change how you feel by changing the way you think. So it is all the cognitive behavioral therapy. And it goes through so many things identifying and rating moods. That's so funny that I opened to a page that I showed you guys right in here. I just took this big book that I read and just kind of was how can I make this a little easier for people? Yeah, testing your core beliefs. But it's a textbook. I'm going to tell you right up, it's a textbook. So if you're not interested in that kind of learning, I try to summarize it. That's kind of where I got it. Also my therapist and counselor, and completing the 75 Hard program and creating the 14-day mindset reset, which is free, by the way. And a new group challenge, this is for everyone, shameless plug, it's free, is starting on, man, I'm bad with dates. I'm freaking so bad. On the 17th, and the prep week, the calendar's over there, starts on the 10th. And I have a workout and meal plan class. I'm an ACE certified personal trainer. That's an international certification. I have to pay $6,000 to go to school for it. I didn't do the good life one. I did a hard one. And then I hated being a personal trainer. So I'm now using this knowledge to help you guys. And so I'm going to just show you some basic ways to create meal plans and workouts. And why I'm bringing this up, part of shadow work is keeping your body, mind, and soul healthy. Taking on this stuff is hard when you're not feeling your best. Should you do it when you're not feeling your best? Definitely, but it's not always easy to find solutions when you're in those states. So the point of this book is to say, I'm not feeling good. I'm going to pull out my shadow work book, write down how I feel, and then insinuate a self-care plan. When you're feeling better, that's the time to say, okay, I'm feeling more solution-based. I'm going to look at this book. How do I want to react instead? You're most likely not going to be able to think that way in the moment. All right. At least in the beginning. So yeah, that is that. Do you guys have any questions? This is the time. I'm going to open the floor. This is open question time. You're amazing at wording things. Thanks. I love language. I really do. I try really hard to make sure that I'm speaking words that I mean to say. I think a lot of people don't take into account the words they're saying and what they actually mean. And because I'm I pay so much attention to it, people will just say the offhand things. And I'm like, but you just said this. And they're like, yeah, but I meant this. I'm like, why don't you just say what you mean? Why can't we just say what we mean? I know it's hard, but you didn't actually say that. You said this, and ask the questions. That's part of communication. So if I'm confused by something, or I wonder if someone does something and I want to make sure that I'm absorbing that correctly, reiterate it back to them, guys. This is a huge communication thing I learned, and it was night or day. Okay, 75 hard thing. That's created by Andy Frizella. So it is a program for 75 days. You need to drink 4 liters of water, read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. You need to take a progress photo. You need to eat a clean diet, no cheat meals, no refined sugar at all, and no alcohol. And if you mess up on any of those, you have to start on day one. So I completed it, start to finish, but like I have my gift, I think, is my intrinsic motivation. Like I have so much of it, like I can do anything, even if I can't, I can, like my brain is kind of stupid that way and awesome in that way. It's bittersweet. But yeah, I completed it, but I tried to run a couple group challenges, as I mentioned, and it was impossible. Nobody was completing it. It has a very low success rate, if you're honest. So I was like, okay, this really worked for me, but how can I adapt it in a way that is going to have a higher success rate? And that's how the 14-day mindset reset came along. So I decreased the water by 5. Hey, buddy. By 5 liters. Cause like as a 5'2" woman who on the regular weighs like 110, 112 pounds, like 4 liters of water is a unnecessary amount actually. And it isn't required to keep me alive. It doesn't make me feel better. Even after the whole 75 days, I never felt good about drinking that amount of water. So I didn't think that I was alone in that. So I only decreased it by half, and that was actually a big difference. And I also created a whole bunch of trackers, and I broke it down into body, mind, and soul. So if you're not ready to take on the full program, I've broken it down into things that are accessible. And yeah, it's completely free. It'll always be free. And it's on my website if you guys want to join us. It's pretty much the same. Honestly, if you increase the water 5 liters and you take a progress photo, you actually qualify for the 75 hard. So if you want to try it out by doing this and you do group A, and you increase by 5 liters and you take a picture, you're qualified. So I did that on purpose also. Any more questions? Oh, I will send in again all of the information. Hey, it's gotta focus on me, camera. I'm gonna resend it after this. So if the email didn't go through, I just sent a mass email. Just make sure that you, I will send it again. I'll keep sending it back. Fun fact, you're not meant to remember your childhood. That's actually science. Not everyone does remember their childhood. They really don't. And that's why it's like, look at other people in your life. Like, you don't always have to dive deep into your childhood to figure out why. I don't try to do that myself per se, but like if the emotion comes up, like, or thought or behavior pattern, I'm like, well, I kind of look to my family to see if I can't figure it out. It's like, does my mom do that or my dad do that? Because then I can say they probably did that when I was a kid, right? Yeah, literally, you can look this up on Google. Most people do not remember their childhood. You're not supposed to, I don't think. Some people remember a lot, but you're not supposed to remember all of it. People kind of use that on TikTok. I used it and made one TikTok about it, but if you actually research, it's quite common. So that's not a thing that you need to worry about. How did you get past the fear of backlash from people while posting on social media? I just don't care what anyone thinks of me. That's all you need to tell yourself. Literally, I've thought about this a million times. The only place, I swear, lack of confidence comes from is caring about what people think of you or fear of death. Like literally, like, because what if I don't get the result that I want? You wouldn't have a lack of confidence from that. Like, I'm a super confident person. I go into things, I know sometimes I might fail or get a lesson from it. It doesn't decrease my confidence in going after the task. But if I think that people are going to care about the result, then it's going to go after my confidence of me caring about the result of the task. So my mantra for that, I literally do not care about your opinion of me. I love you, but I don't care what you think about me. Your opinion of me is none of my business. It isn't. Because guess what? Everyone has a different opinion of you. Every single person. It doesn't matter if I'm like, everyone has a different opinion. There are people who are going to love you or hate you or in between, all around. You have no control over that. Really, you don't. You could try. You could put on a facade and try and control it. But if you've been your authentic self and they have an image of you, the only way you can change that is them changing it. You cannot change someone's opinion unless they decide to. But you can act in a different way that can insinuate them to change their mind. Does that make sense? But yeah, I don't care what you guys think of me. Yeah, I literally said everybody in my personal life was making fun of me for having TikTok as a 33-year-old woman. Everybody. I literally had a group chat of my friends of 5 years straight, and they would outwardly post memes, make fun of TikTok in the group chat. I was outwardly made fun of for it. People were like, "Oh, are you on your phone on that little kids app again?" Guys, I took like hardcore to the face blasphemy for it. So I just said, you know, I don't care what you want. I know who I am and I know what I want to do on the app, and I did just that. And I mean, 500,000 followers later, ha! Take that, Kyle. Sorry. That was my ex's name, but he was one of the main people who was like, it's the stupidest thing. It's Donald Trump is going to get it banned. You know, like I was like, dude, like, why don't you just let me live my life? So I was too positive and asked too many questions in the morning too. So we don't even need to get started on that. So you just need to make a choice that you're going to do it no matter what anyone says. It's a choice. And like, if people make fun of you, delete and block them. Guys, don't argue with the trolls. Don't tantalize the trolls. All right? I know I'm on the TikTok in the background, but don't tantalize the trolls. I've done this a few times. It never works out the way, any way good, no way good. My block list, I don't even know, but it never works out, okay? Don't even argue, especially if it's a complete stranger. Let's see what else we have in here. Ba 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 ba. Wow, wow, yeah, yeah. Ooh, how do you identify generational trauma? I wouldn't try to. Guys, you don't have to put everything in a box. Like, I actually am a huge advocate of that. You don't have to label everything, okay? You don't. What I would say is generational trauma is like my grandma, when I visited my grandma, was going through severe depression, okay? She told me she was going to drive her car off a cliff. I was there alone and I was also going through my stuff and I was like, what the fuck? I've never heard my grandma talk like this ever. But now as an adult and how my energy is, people just tell me all these weird stuff now. So anyways, apparently my grandma too. And I was like, whoa. So I called my mom and I was like, yo mom, this just happened. And I'm actually kind of afraid that my grandma is going to drive her car off a cliff. And my grandma overheard me telling my mom and came right in the room and said, I didn't say that. So I had an incident at Christmas where I showed my mom the book of when I was 8 years old, 9 years old, what I'd write down when they would abuse me or whatever, hurt me and why, because I had no one to talk to, nobody. So I wrote it in a book and I never showed anyone until literally this year when my Frank died. And I showed it to my mom and my mom said, it didn't happen that way. I don't remember it happening that way. And I was like, all of this time, I could never figure out why you would tell me this. But then I was like, my grandma doing the thing to my mom, it's like, oh, okay. Okay. So in my opinion, that's kind of how you can define it is this passed on to you from your parents, from their parents? And sometimes it just happens. Like I was trying to figure that out for a lifetime. Why is my mom continually denying my existence, my reality, everything through my whole life? I could never figure it out. And it was just blasphemy. I couldn't figure it out. It was driving me nuts. And then I was like, literally one trip to my grandma's. I said, this is why you write it down. Because one time you'll just visit your family and you'll be like, oh, I visited my grandma in the summer. And it just one circumstance, one comment, one literally made most of my life make sense. And then I started looking at my mom in a whole new way. I was like, man, you're just as super traumatized like me. And then I kind of felt bad for all the times I was mad at her for it. Right? So, oh man. And then you just start learning. And someone asked, like, how do you know you're healing your shadows? That's how. When you stop getting angry at everything in the world and you wake up and you're not crying and you realize that, you know, things are just happening and you realistically only have control of your mindset. And honestly, you will just wake up one day and just feel better. And you can be healed. You can say my higher self is healed. Like you can be healed. It doesn't have to be this never ending process. It's up to you to decide. And it really is. And sometimes emotions and stuff happen that are out of control. That's the shadow stuff. That's your shadow self in protection mode. That's the out of control reaction, not the thoughtful, controlled response, right? So we're just trying to, and the thought, this is manifestation, guys. This is why I say you can manifest your dream life or your nightmare, because your thought aligns your emotion, which aligns your action all of the time. So that's why we try to catch the thought first in manifestation and in shadow work. Because if you're constantly just thinking about how horrible your life is, how do you think your emotions are going to be? They're not going to be emotions that are going to insinuate you to make moves towards your manifestations. Not usually, right? So some people, they do. Like me, I feel like sometimes that gives me some fire. But when I'm in my worst state, I'm not making good moves. I'm not communicating properly. I'm not talking to people that I love with love. I'm not leaving people better than I found them, which my higher self tries to do, which she does, but my shadow self doesn't always, right? Because it's in protection mode. So yeah, we got to catch the thought before it changes the, decides the emotion, which will decide your action, which will decide how your life is. And no, you're not choosing bad things to happen to you. I'm not saying that, but your response to those things is what matters. That's what matters, your response. So does anyone have any more questions? I feel like we're kind of like wrapping it up. I feel like that was like a perfect wrap up too. I cleaned up my background a little bit and like this though. Oh man, notice a lot of generational trauma. Yeah. Oh man. When you notice it, it's so tough because you're like, it's so many emotions at once. I've felt it. I've been there. It's so many emotions at once. It's like when I realized that about my mom, I just remembered so many times when I was like fighting her to be heard and fighting her for things that she wasn't even capable of hearing or doing. And the frustration I felt and the anger and the explosions I had because of my scale goes frustration, anger, explosion, shutdown. Like I was like, wow, a lot of this could have been helped if I just knew, if I just, someone at some point in our lineage said, hey, we got to believe people when they're telling us emotions. We have to believe people when they say they're going to do things. Like, don't say things you don't mean because we got to start taking people seriously. So yeah, that's me. And if that's you, it's a hard job, but it's very, 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 very important, and it will change very quickly for you. I believe in karma, you guys. And when you start doing this work, like abundances will happen, tools will start appearing in front of you, support systems will start growing. And one thing I want to note, kind of as a last thing, is like if you're trying to grow a support system right now, I've also been there. Main thing I want to tell you is you need to be the support that you want in your life. If you're sitting there thinking that people are just randomly going to message you out of the blue all of the time to see how you're doing, they are not. Why? Because people have their own lives. They're busy. There are people that do that, sure. But why can't you be that person? You can't sit there expecting things you're not giving in return. There are people that do that. I'm not going to lie. There are. And that's great.